Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's perfect.
The microphone's working. Okay, you assholes all dressed up. I like barely finished my last call and I had to fucking make much. So now I smell like ass. Like
we can't smell you, luckily.
Well, this is the one thing that I hate about cooking Bangladeshi food is like I have this paranoia that my hair, my clothes, the whole house smells and no one else notices it but me. So I'm like Febrezing everything. But Jai Hook, I am fucking here. So I made it. Your mom's here?
No, she's not here anymore. She was. So before she came, she was like, আমি আসতেছি ঈদের জন্য। তো সে আসার আগে she was like, হ্যাঁ, I'll make this. আমি খাবার দাবার নিয়ে আসবো। তুমি চিন্তা করো না। আমি এসে পোলাও রান্না করব, এটা রান্না করব, এটা রান্না করব। So she comes and she brings beef and she brings chola. Chola I can make. And she's like, না, তোমার বাবা বলছে তুমি ছোলা অনেক লাইক করো খেতে।
I love chola.
ছোলা নিয়ে আসি। I love it too, but
wait,
I mean,
chola is like, in boot or chickpeas?
Boot. No, like boot.
Girl.
Like the brown boot.
It's the brown best. Black chickpea is what it is called. I know, like white people are like, what is this? Because I posted it once during like Roja and stuff, and they're like, what is this? What you call it in English? It's just
black
chickpeas.
Oh God. So my mom is like, acha ami goru mangsho niye ashbo. So on Eider shokale, I FaceTime my dad, and my dad's like showing me all the things that they've done. So my stepmom is like an incredible cook. She's like really good. So she abar ranna tanna dekhache, chicken roast ranse, pulao ranse, gorur mangsho ranse. There's like a layer of tel floating with aloo, and then I thought I heard her say, "Oh, আমি তোমার জন্য গরুর মাংস পাঠাইছি." So then, I mean, like, বাসায় এসে, I was like, "Oh yes, I'm gonna have this গরুর মাংস," and my mom puts the গরুর মাংস to heat it. It is not the same thing.
Oh
She's
no! She made it. Not your other mom, not your stepmom. Other mom.
My bio mom made it. And it was a total fail, unfortunately. It was all kolija.
I'm not a fan of kolija.
What?
I hate kolija.
I am, but like kolija has to be cooked in a very specific way with like aloo, and it has to be cut small. It can't be like shingara. Just shingara is good.
Shingara? I've never had kolija shingara.
What?
Apparently, I'm missing out.
It's so good.
So good.
So you didn't get your other mom's food?
I didn't get my other mom's food. I'm like confused about my two moms, right?
Oh my God.
And then, I mean, I didn't have the heart to tell her that her goru mangsho wasn't good, even though I still ate it up until yesterday. She's a great cook sometimes, but
sometimes.
Yeah, for the most part, people are like, "Oh, mar khabar ranna amar khete ichha korche, hate ranna khete ichha korche." And I'm like, it's okay.
My mom brings beef from Texas to Minnesota in a suitcase. She's known for her suitcase beef. Everywhere she goes from Texas, she takes beef to people.
Really?
She doesn't freeze it. She freezes it.
It's cooked.
No, the Texas beef. It's like legit beef. It's so good.
Like good Republican beef.
Yes.
It ain't halal, son.
Right-wing beef. It is halal, actually.
Oh, halal Republican beef? That's the worst kind. Brown Republicans are the worst.
Anyway, she parboils or whatever it is. Right? Like it's half ranna and then frozen. So it's not totally raw, but it's delicious.
So does she parboil it in spices?
I don't know. I should ask her.
Yeah. Kosha manai to kosha no na?
There's another kosha.
Let's not get into that, kosha.
Wait, tell us more.
Omo janana? What?
I mean, I think I can speculate, but please indulge me. Keep out this up.
You don't either?
I know the other kosha.
Yeah,
like koshagu.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Is that what we're talking about? I thought it meant something else.
It's constipation.
Oh. Ami basi kosha koshi.
What's kosha koshi?
What is that? This is really Binglish. What?
I don't know. I thought it was way more raunchy than what you guys are talking about.
No,
Oh my god.
Oh boy. We'll have to cut all of this out,
Here
right?
we go.
No one else is gonna find this funny except for us. I don't know why
I
we're laughing.
swear.
Hydrate.
Panico. Oh my god, that would have been a good name. All our parents say Panico.
Panico.
All right, so we're very excited to get together for our very first podcast. And one of the things we wanted to start off with is how we all know each other. So, Marion, do you want to talk a little bit about all of our, 6 degrees?
I think it's less than 6 degrees.
It is.
So I knew of Bushra because way back in the day when I lived in Bangladesh, I didn't live in Bangladesh. I was there temporarily for a long time. I got a random, remember how people would be like random prank calls? Those are what's called prank
Yes.
calls. I got one of those at my daddy's house on a Monday night because that's when all of our parents would go off to play housey at Dhaka Club. So there was
Housey.
no grown-ups at home. And this dude calls and he's talking to me, but he's talking to me with a super Binglish accent. And I was like, who is that? He sounds like me. So then we just start talking to each other like every day, especially every Monday, because that's when nobody's parents were home. And we could talk for months. And through that, I found out that he had a little sister named Bushra. And then I had to leave Bangladesh and we became so very friendly. We were just friends. Yahoo happens and all these social platforms happen. And I'm just constantly searching for him because his birthday is 7/7/77.
Yeah.
And so I would search people. I did all these wild searches. Never found him. Facebook happened one day and I'm like, oh my God, a new platform. Let me try. And
Yeah.
I would look for him and I would look for his sister, but I found his sister on Facebook and I sent a random message. I'm like, is your brother Imtiaz? Is his birthday this? And then it happened. And then it ended up we knew all these people. It was wild.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was mind-blowing because I was like, what? How does this person know my brother and his birthday? That's very, specific. And I vaguely remembered this summer fling. We might as well call it that. They barely ever met, but it was all
we
the
met
time
twice
on the
in
phone.
the gully of my mama's house.
So Dhaka.
So it was a fling. It was a little fling.
It's
fling,
childhood
Yeah.
crush, but you guys never really saw each other. Maybe once or twice from the balcony, right?
Yeah.
baranda থেকে যে ঢাকায় যেটা প্রেমের সময়, baranda থেকে
Yeah,
দেখা
but it
ওরকম।
wasn't even prem. It was just this weird
Yeah.
you're out of place in Bangladesh, I'm out of place in Bangladesh, and then
Yeah.
it was weird.
That brings me back to
No offense
AOL,
to
which
the
was
dog.
pre-Facebook, right? AOL. AOL used to have groups you could create or whatever the heck it was called, and chat rooms.
Yep.
And that is how I met your husband, Maya. Because
Really?
I met Fuad on one of those chat rooms. There was some Bangladeshi one, right? And Bangladeshi as in all the Bangladeshis living in America were on this chat group. And that's how we all met originally. So there was I don't even know. He had one friend, Tiki. I don't know what his full name even is because I still remember him as Tiki. But they were all on it. And so that's kind of how we connected. Oh, you guys are all these other Bangladeshis that live in New York. I lived in New York. And that's how we originally connected. And then fast forward, we met for the first time at Rutgers because Fuad was coming to perform with his old band, Zephyr, or whatever it was called at the time.
That was his first
How
band.
ironic.
So that's when I first met him. I was still in college. Geez, we were I don't know, 18, 19 when we met. And, and then I dated one of his friends. And, that's kind of how we started hanging out. And we sort of broke up with those people, but we remained friends and we became very, very close. And so that's how I met him. And then he eventually moved to Bangladesh. And it's kind of lost touch with him once he moved.
But you moved to
Dhaka.
Chicago.
I moved to
before that.
Chicago. I graduated, moved to Chicago, and he maybe 2-3 years later moved to Bangladesh because I remember for my wedding he wasn't living in the U.S. anymore because everyone was
We
oh,
got married around the same time.
07. Yeah.
Yep.
So he was already.
Both of you got married in 07.
Yeah.
Yep. So Bushra left for Chicago and I moved to Jersey.
Yeah.
And then I saw Fuad in his other then band at some weird like Church McDonald Mela in New York.
What?
So random.
Sounds about right though.
In Brooklyn. And then I think his hubby or somebody connected us. So then he called me one day and then we were just chatting again. No fling. It was just like, hey, what's up? Like, you know this person. We knew all the same people. And then I ended up being like their groupie because I would just drive them around Mela to Mela all weekend, every weekend.
Melas and Bongo
For a long
Shamelon
time.
and
Yes,
Fobana. There was,
Hobana.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Is that where you had your exposure to the Bangladeshi culture, or was it just like through your dad and your family and stuff?
Who, me? Oh, no. Oh, my God, no. My dad actually started Fobana, him and two other people.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Back in the
Oh.
day. So that was when it was like very like few people, not commercial, not for profit, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it
Interesting.
exploded. And he left very soon after. But then I met all of these guys at the Fobana in Atlanta. It was just weird. And so we would just have like this weird like backstage connection.
That's
And
how I
group
feel like a lot of us knew each other.
Connection.
And like speaking of Melas, it was the same thing, right? Like the college years, there was always like a Bangladeshi student association, and they always had some event, and all the same crew
Same
would
faces.
show up
Everybody knows everybody.
every single college program.
Yep.
Yeah.
That enter Maya. Yes. I went to New York for a work trip, and Fuad came to pick me up while you were getting a tattoo in Queens or in Astoria.
I remember.
Remember? And I met you for the
Yep.
first time, and I was so intimidated. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so freaking cool. Like, I don't know how this is going to go down.
I don't know how this could go down. And I mean, it's kind of interesting to also talk about, a lot of times when a girl is very good friends with a guy,
Yes.
it's intimidating on both sides because one, as
Absolutely.
a wife or a girlfriend, you're like, who the hell are you to be this close? But there was never like neither one of us ever had any sort of like romantic ties to. I mean, we've always been like legit bros,
Yes.
right?
Legit.
So then enter
I feel
Maya,
like-
who's like this beautiful feminine chick, and we're like cat as can be in that sense. You know what I mean? Like
I was
who's this?
so intimidated. I
Yeah.
was so nervous.
I
Mhm.
was
And then you were
nervous
getting a
too
tattoo,
because
so I
Fuad
thought you
was
were
giving.
some badass.
No, and Fuad told me so many stories actually about both of you before I even met you. It's like, these
Yeah.
are my best friends, la 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 la. We grew up together and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, okay, these girls, obviously they're cool, but I was also super intimidated. And also because you guys were a little bit older,
Yeah.
you knew him for way longer. And I didn't know where I would fit, but kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Here we are now. Fuad.
I know. Because then I met
Out.
Maya when we were visiting Dhaka one year, is when I met
Yep.
you, and we were at Nando's in Dhaka.
Yeah.
And, I'm like with Damon, my husband, who doesn't really get the concept of like, oh, Fuad is someone famous in Bangladesh. And the waiters are all like surrounding our table and they want to take pictures with him. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe like you made it. Because we used to sit in his car for hours and at Burger King talking about this moment when Fuad was going to be this famous. And it was amazing to like experience it because these people were like, aren't you Fuad? Like, can we take pictures? And I was like, I can't believe this is actually
This is
happening.
him.
Because
Yeah, I remember.
talked about this so much. And like, we were like, that's never going to happen. And in our, kind of like, are we crazy? But it totally did. So that's
It
really
totally
awesome.
did.
So, okay, Maya, I think we both sort of know how you met Fuad, but I think that's a very interesting story.
I think we'll get into that story on another day. But on a high level, Fuad and I met. We were on Facebook. So I went to Bangladesh on a trip. He was with his then girlfriend.
And you
I
lived
was
where?
I was in Vancouver. So I went on just like a vacation, and I was at that time engaged to my ex, and we had gone to see his cousin's Gai Hulud. So at that Gai Hulud, Fuad was performing with like Rafa and Zohad and all these guys.
Oh.
And so Oi Holude, I did like a little video of like their performance. Of course, I was obsessed with Zohan. Like I didn't even look at
He's
anyone else on
cute.
stage.
So cute.
Yeah. So Oi Videota, I posted on Facebook and I tagged him, or so I guess it got
Oh.
tagged, and then he found me and we just started talking.
And so
But
he slid
before
into your DMs.
he slid into my DMs.
Where would we be
But
without social media?
Seriously, that's
I
how we all know each
know.
other.
That's how we all know each other.
We would have
But
prank
we
called each other otherwise.
the OG social media.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. So from then we were friends. I was in counseling at the time, and he was just going through a breakup with his then girlfriend. So I had kind of talked him out of like getting out of this funk that he was in, and he tells me that okay, and then we just kind of fell off. Like we didn't talk for a while. Then like a few months later, he messages me and he's like, "Yeah, like you really helped me out that one time. If there's anything I could do for you, let me know." By that time, I was planning my wedding.
Oh my
So I was
God.
like, "Oh, you want to do something for me? How about you come perform at my wedding? Amar mehndi pe perform karo."
wow.
So he came. He was like, done. So he came with
Dhaka.
all his Dhaka. He came with his entourage. He with like Parvez and I don't know who else was there. I think Shubho and like all these other people. He performed at my mehndi, and then again we didn't talk for months. And then yeah, he went and he did that. And then a few months later we were talking again, and he was like, "Hey, how's married life? Blah blah blah." And I was like, it's not what I thought it was going to be. It was a big mistake. And then he's like, "Whatever you do, don't get pregnant."
Really, really good advice.
Sage advice. So you were married and back in Canada, right? Like this wasn't in
Yeah.
Bangladesh. Yeah.
No. I was married back in Canada. And so, yeah. So after, again, we would talk, and then we wouldn't talk for months. Then the next time we found each other, I had already left my then husband, and he was again falling through some sort of a depression, anxiety funk. And we found each other, and yeah, that was it. And then we'll get into the long version another day.
Oh, there's so many versions of this. But at some point you moved to Bangladesh.
I did. So after a while, we were friends again. I guess we reconnected when he realized that I was, not with anybody. He was, I guess,
Yeah.
পটানোর চেষ্টা করতেছিল অনেক. Eventually it worked. I went to Bangladesh. I thought I was going to go for like 6 months to do like a project with him. Within like a month and a half, we got married.
Oh my God, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Was
crazy.
that when he was in that Baridhara house?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's wild. So like I mean, one, it's so interesting how we're all connected in very different ways. And then somehow we all found each other via social media, like we were saying, which is also interesting. But then I guess we all at some point lived in Dhaka. Marion, you probably not as long as I did, and but like we all sort of like moved around. So we have the Dhaka experience as well as living, in other countries like the US, Canada,
You lived
whatever.
all over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were everywhere.
Yeah. And so like, with my dad's job as a diplomat, we moved a lot, but so we'd be abroad for about 6 years, and then we'd come back to Bangladesh for 3 years and then go back out. And so it was an interesting transition coming from like different countries and then trying to assimilate back to like the Dhaka English medium world where, everyone's, and that's not a Bangladesh thing, but like people are cliquey, right? Like as you get older, it gets even clickier. And then, trying to assimilate into
Was it
that.
harder to assimilate into that than to like a school, like even an American school in a new country?
Oh, for sure. I felt like I was way more
harder.
judged in Dhaka, right? Like, I mean,
Really?
we all do this.
I
We
mean,
like
wait for the other
judging.
episodes on this podcast.
Yeah. I could do a whole episode on my experiences assimilating. But overall, I mean, it's a great experience. But I think it's now interesting for all of us living in the US and sort of being observers of how Dhaka has evolved. Especially like the circles that we knew. It's like everybody knows the same circle, like if you're in the English medium world. And it's kind of interesting to observe that via social media and seeing how that's changed. And in some ways, the Bangladeshi population in the US hasn't evolved as fast as the Dhaka population has. And that's what's been really interesting to kind of see the differences, like when we talk about our parents' generation and how they expect us to maintain the Bangladeshi culture like the way they left it 30, 40 years ago.
Yep.
And that's not even existent in in the Dhaka circle
Yeah.
anymore. And the pressure we get from like a religious perspective too, and like the cultural perspective. And so I
Every
think
time
it's
we used to go
interesting.
back, every time we used to go back from here, people would be like, the first few times when we were a lot younger, they'd be like to my cousin, "Oh, this is your cousin from America." Like I was so kept for them.
Yeah.
I was
Really?
not cool enough.
Really? Because there was
I
a
thought I
time when
was
it was
cool.
cool. And when it was cool when your cousins from abroad came, like London or
Mhm.
America.
Maybe, but I can't name the person who this was. They had
You
very
gotta tell us.
highfalutin life. So I
Mhm.
guess maybe
Oh,
for them. So
oh.
for others, maybe yeah, it was cool because we'd bring the Kit Kat
Oh,
and
that's
the
what I'm
guest
saying. I just wanted the
t-shirts.
candy.
Yeah.
That was the
And
best
then
part.
eventually it turned into like, oh, tumi kon skule paro when we went to Bangladesh because they just couldn't. They were like, wait, you guys grew up there because of what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
our parents, like jata diye, it was like Bangla bolo. There's no choice. Ganshiko, Natshiko, all of those things because
Yeah.
there's no other way to hold on to what they brought over
Mhm. Shalwar Misparo, like no
all the time. There's a
full hat,
picture that
my kalu, full hata gola bondo. That was his thing, man.
Oh my gosh.
a picture that went around of like birthday parties in Bangladesh and birthday parties in America.
Oh my god.
And these tweens in Bangladesh in like little mini skirts and all this makeup and hair, and all of us like in our
And our lehengas for our sweet 16
You
at an
have
Indian
to
restaurant.
You have to insert that in here somewhere.